Sega.
You are one sharp dude.
In Power Drift, you play one of 12 varied characters and race buggies around crazy roller coaster style tracks, trying to place in the top 3 in order to progress. All of this takes place in true 3D circuits rendered using giant, colourful scaling and rotating sprites. It's intense. First, we'll look at the 1988 arcade version running on Sega's Y-board hardware. Then we'll compare it to the 1990 PC-DOS port, which I'll run using DOSBox. The arcade version released in 1988 in several cabinets, including the deluxe cabinet which tilts left and right as you steer. I was lucky enough to play one of these many years ago, and it's a memorable experience. The arcade intro sequence consists of a short gameplay sequence, followed by a high score table, then this scaling title which harks back to developer Yu Suzuki's Afterburner. Another demo follows, then several of the drivers are introduced. After a third demo, this dramatic sequence shows. The intro then basically repeats, showing different locations and drivers. Occasionally you'll see a demo where the camera remains static and the world pans around instead, showing off how this faux 3D world works. When you start the game, you choose from one of 5 courses, A to E, and pick your driver. Here I'm using the home version's cover star, Punky Geronimo. Each course has 5 stages of increasing difficulty, with the first one usually being quite tame, such as this first stage in course A. Stage 2 is this roller coaster. Stage 3 is in a snowy location. Stage 4 usually upgrades you to a more powerful buggy, and the stage includes a jump. I couldn't get past this one though, as this game's quite hard, even on my steering wheel. Course B begins with this green looping track. Stage 2 is a bit more complex with a raised section. Stage 3 is a rather confusing roller coaster with turn after turn. Stage 4 again has a jump and a lot of mean turns. And again, I couldn't get past this one. Course C starts on an outrun style beach, then moves to a sunset for stage 2, with a long track half underneath the raised section. Stage 3 is near a nighttime city and has some more complex corners. Once again, I could only get to stage 4, which doesn't have a jump on this track, but does have some very quick corner sequences that are easy to get wrong. Course D stands for desert. The opening stage races between a canyon. Note how the time of day sees the background sky darken as you race. Stage 2 is a bit more of a wild ride, around and over a canyon. Stage 3 is tricky, with a small hump and many canyon walls that get confusing. The fourth stage is similar, but has a tight circular raised section which is easy to get wrong. On this course I managed to get to stage 5, which is incredibly easy to get wrong, either going wide or turning in too soon. I couldn't complete this one. Finally, course E starts with this classic roller coaster track. Note how you cannot fall off the sides of the easiest tracks. Stage 2 is a fast sweeping track at night. Stage 3 is in a snowy canyon with all the turns going right. The fourth stage has 2 jumps between some tall medieval style towers. The fifth stage is tricky and fast, with plenty of turns that are easy to go too wide or too tight on. It's rather confusing at times, but I managed to complete this one, leading to the congratulations screen. And high score name entry. One thing that stands out in this game are the crashes, particularly if you fall off a roller coaster as the entire view barrel rolls. It's impressive stuff, especially for 1988. A lesser known detail is that you get a different car depending on the difficulty level set in the arcade game dip switches. The easy difficulty car is the faster one, usually seen in the stages with jumps. The normal difficulty car is the most well-known blue one. The hard difficulty car is this orange variant, whilst the top hardest difficulty gives you this cool silver vehicle. One amusing hidden feature that can actually be useful is that pressing the start button shows a reverse view, which could be handy for checking on your rivals, but less useful for seeing where you're going. Now, enjoy a minute of the arcade version, with clips from one stage in all 5 courses. The PC-DOS port came out in 1990, released by Activision, who handled several of the home Sega ports. It was released quite late on the PC, after all the other home computer versions. Despite coming on floppy disks, the game still manages a short intro sequence, with this rotating Power Drift logo coming onto screen. However, it then goes straight into the course and driver selection screen. There are no demos or high score tables appearing here. The DOS version supports a range of different graphics and audio hardware. Graphically, we'll stick to the 256 colour MCGA version of the game, but here's a sample of the various audio options that are available. First up, the PC speaker. The game also supports Tandy hardware at a reduced 16 colours mode, but with improved music. The CMS Game Blaster is also supported and sounds like this. In this video, I'll use ad-lib sound, as it includes drums and feels more correct for the era of the game. You can, however, totally push the boat out and use Roland MT32/LAPC1 hardware. This sounds like a full electronic keyboard. However, it's not my favourite as it relies heavily on piano sounds, which isn't quite like the arcade. So I'll use ad-lib for the rest of this video. When you choose a course and driver, the game begins with some digitised speech.
3, 2, 1, go!
The gameplay is fairly smooth and uses some decent sized sprites, but the raised parts are mostly wooden planks and the game feels just a bit easy, even though I didn't complete it on normal mode. Your driver sprite is always the same regardless of the character you chose, and every other car is orange with a bald man driving. Course A's first stage is this green level, before stage 2, which was a huge roller coaster in the arcade but here feels a bit less dramatic. The third stage uses different tree sprites at least, but I ran out of time here and there are no continues.
Too bad, try again.
Course B starts in this green area. You may notice that the background scenery is identical on all levels though. Stage 2 is more up in the air, with a lot of seafood and beer roadside signs. Stage 3 feels like a desert, and I bump off the tyres a lot here and fail to complete the level. Note that the engine and collision sounds use the regular PC speaker, so are pretty beepy compared to the music. Course C is the beach stage and starts with a lot of palm trees and a huge hump. Stage 2 was at sunset in the arcade but feels more vibrant here. It's also tricky and I ran out of time. Course D is the desert location and it does a good job of feeling suitably bumpy off the line. Stage 2 has a brighter sky but feels a bit samey. Stage 3 has a grey sky and an unprotected rise that you can fall off the side of if you're not careful. I failed to finish in the top 3 here though. Finally, Course E starts with the roller coaster over the water as per the arcade. Stage 2 is the Swift Nighttime stage, followed by Stage 3 in this grey location which is supposed to be wintry. The fourth stage has jumps, but they animate and feel a bit weird, and you also don't upgrade to the faster looking buggy, which you do in the arcade version. Finally, here's the fifth stage, which is actually a fair bit easier than the arcade one, so I finished this in first place.
Congratulations.
I actually finished every stage in first place, which gives you access to this.
Bonus track. 3, 2, 1, go!
In the bonus track, you race the bike from Super Hang-On. Interestingly, this seems to use the exact sprite set from the PC-DOS version of that game, even though it was developed by Data East rather than Activision. The arcade version also has the bonus tracks, with courses A, C and E transforming your buggy into the Super Hang-On bike, whilst tracks B and D convert your car into the plane from Afterburner. Sadly, I wasn't skilled enough to unlock those in the arcade version, but you can find videos of people doing so on YouTube.
Congratulations.
Win this and you get to enter your name into the rather bland looking high score table.
High score.
This only appears at the end of races and doesn't appear in the opening demo. Despite the reduced graphics of the PC version, the crashes still animate well, with both spins if you hit scenery, as well as this rotating effect should you fall off a roller coaster. Now here's a minute of the PC-DOS version without me talking over it. Let's compare the start of each course at the pixel level. Here's course A on the arcade. You start in a rock tunnel pointing uphill, wiping across to the DOS version, and it's all a bit different as you're on a race section pointing downhill instead. Course B on the arcade is this busy looking level with a city in the background, but the DOS version feels much more like the countryside as every stage has the same background scenery and there's no trees visible from the start line. Here's the arcade version of Course C, with its beach track lined with palm trees. The DOS version has a slightly green beach, but at least a palm tree is present. Course D is the desert, with trees and a bumpy road ahead. The DOS version also has trees, and the bumpy road. Finally, Course E is the fantastic stone roller coaster stage with lots of red girders in the arcade. The DOS version has lost all the girders, but the gist of the track remains. Let's put some stages head to head, at least the ones I managed to get to on both versions. The arcade version of Power Drift is a graphical tour de force and something that, in its deluxe cabinet form, really needs to be tried out in person if you can find a working cabinet. The PC-DOS version is okay. It's not as frenetic as the arcade and sometimes rather too easy. There are other games on the PC that get closer to the feeling of the arcade original, such as Team 17's World Rally Fever, but that came out in 1996, a full 8 years after the original Power Drift arcade game. If you enjoyed this comparison of Power Drift, then say so with a like, and subscribe, ring the bell, etc. to be informed when I've uploaded something new. And join me next time for perhaps the most well-known game in history.